Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on something a lot of you are looking into: legitimate work from home data entry jobs.
hmm
You're searching for ways to earn money remotely, and yeah, data entry often looks like the easy route, but let's be honest, the online world is also packed with scams.
It really is.
So, our mission today is pretty simple. We want to arm you with the info you need to spot the real opportunities and, crucially, avoid the fake ones.
Exactly. You shared that article, 24 data entry jobs from home that are not scams, the 2025 update. That's our main source here.
Right.
And we're basically going to pick it apart, pull out the key stuff, company names, what they most pay, what skills you actually need, and even what people are saying in reviews.
Think of it as your cheat sheet for navigating this sometimes murky area.
Yeah, exactly. A shortcut to getting informed.
Okay, let's jump right in. The article kicks off with some best picks. First one up is Flex Jobs. Now, this isn't purely data entry, is it? It's broader than that.
Precisely. FlexJobs is, well, it's a well-regarded job board. They list jobs in loads of categories, I think over 50, and data entry is just one of them.
Okay.
The article flags it, mainly because it's seen as trustworthy.
Yeah.
Which is step one in avoiding scams.
Right.
Think of it like a specialized search engine, but just for remote and flexible work. They vet the listings.
Ah, okay, so they do some filtering for you.
Yeah, and they often throw in extras like help with resumes or interview tips. Pretty useful stuff when you're job hunting.
Makes sense. Then, okay, the article also brings up survey sites. Survey Junkie, Swagbooks. These
Okay.
are more for pocket money, yeah? Not a main income source.
Correct. Yeah, those platforms are really just for earning small amounts here and there. You share opinions, do tiny tasks.
Hmm,
The article does say they're legit. They do pay out. So, yeah, they're real, but definitely just for supplementary income in your spare time.
gotcha. Now, interestingly, it also flags bookkeeper and proofreader as best picks, and the potential earnings sound, well, pretty good. Like $300 per client per month for bookkeeping.
Yeah, and the surprising part was no experience needed, apparently.
Exactly. And proofreading up to maybe $50 an hour. These sound like they need more than just typing, though.
You're right to point that out. They both need attention to detail, sure, but they're different skills. Bookkeeping is finance stuff, managing records.
Right.
Proofreading is all about catching errors in text.
Mm.
The high pay, that probably depends on, building up clients, maybe having special knowledge.
Or a solid portfolio.
Exactly. And that no experience for bookkeeping.
Ah.
It makes you wonder, right? What's the catch? How much time or learning does it really take to get clients and handle their money properly?
Yeah, definitely something to think about if those fields interest you. Okay, let's get to the main list that the company is supposedly offering legit work from home data entry. First one, QuickTape. What's the story there?
QuickTate is mainly about transcribing audio.
Mm-hmm.
Things like medical reports, legal notes.
Okay.
The article says it's accessible. Like, you don't usually need experience,
That's it.
which makes it sound good for beginners.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah. Straight away, it mentions mixed reviews. What jumped out at you from those?
It looked like a classic trade-off. Some people found it, easy and fun for extra cash, and they get paid on time, which is good. But then others complained about very little work, pay being poor, and sometimes the audio quality being terrible. That would make the job way harder.
Yeah, definitely. So low barrier to entry, maybe, but probably not something you can rely on for steady, decent income.
Sounds about right.
And that's sort of what the article concludes, too. Could be okay for a first step, but expect low pay and inconsistent work. It's a pattern.
Seems like it. Flexibility often means lower pay in these entry-level gigs.
Exactly. You got to be realistic about the money, especially if you need to replace a full-time salary.
Okay, next up, Speak Right. This one sounds a bit more demanding from the start.
Yeah, SpeakRite has clearer requirements. They want 60 words per minute typing speed, minimum 90% accuracy.
Okay.
And for most roles, they want at least 1 year's experience. Plus, it's only for people in the U.S. or Canada.
Right, geographical limits. And the application.
Involves a background check and a typing test. They want to verify those skills.
Makes sense. What about the pay and what users say?
Pay is listed per word, about half a cent per word, roughly. One review called it a low per word scale.
Mm-hmm.
But on the plus side, people like the flexibility, setting your own hours, and apparently a supportive team.
So maybe better culture, even if the pay isn't amazing.
Could be. But the article also mentions strict quality control, which ties back to those accuracy demands. It seems like, yeah, higher standards, but maybe not massively higher pay, just a different set of pros and cons.
Interesting. Okay, moving on. Dion Data Solutions. They've been around since 1999. That's a long time online. Suggests some stability, maybe?
It certainly can. Longevity is often a good sign. The article notes they hire globally, which is different from SpeakRite.
Yeah, that's a key difference.
They also want 60 words per minute, but the pay is just listed as per piece.
Which is kind of vague, isn't it?
Very vague. Hard to know what you'd actually earn.
And the reviews for Dion Data, mixed again.
Yep, mixed again.
Mhm.
Positives about hiring internationally. Negatives. Same old story. Low pay, not always enough work.
And per piece pay, how does that usually work?
Well, you get paid for each task you finish. Could be, say, completing one form or entering a batch of data. Your earnings really depend on how many pieces are available and how fast you are.
Right, so it could vary a lot day to day.
Exactly. Less predictable than an hourly rate.
Okay, next is SigTrack. This is very specific. Typing voters' petitions. Sounds like U.S. only again.
Yes, explicitly U.S. residents only for SigTrack. They also stress needing good reading and writing skills and being able to work independently. Makes sense for petition data. And the article warns that openings aren't always there, so you'd need to keep checking.
Pay isn't directly stated, but what did the reviews hint at?
Reviews suggested the pay might be low in the beginning while you're learning their system.
Right.
But there's mention of bonuses. Some people felt these made it worth it once they got the hang of it.
Okay, so potential to earn more later.
Possibly. And flexibility work when you want was a big plus, balanced against the work being potentially sporadic, depending on election cycles.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk about some bigger platforms often mentioned for online work, like mTurk, Amazon Mechanical Turk. The article calls it a microtask site. What does that mean exactly?
Sure. mTurk is where businesses post really small tasks. They call them HITs, human intelligence tasks, things that need a human eye.
Okay.
You might find some data entry sometimes, but it's mostly things like tagging images, doing surveys, maybe short transcriptions. It's very varied.
So not really a steady data entry job source?
Generally, no. The article is pretty clear. Reviews often complain about low pay and low availability. It's really positioned as just an extra income option for spare moments.
Right. Pennies here and there.
Pretty much.
And similarly, Lionbridge and Clickworker are mentioned. Sounds like the same kind of deal. Inconsistent data entry work.
That's the gist, yeah. Lionbridge might have short data entry tasks sometimes, but it's sporadic. You have to keep checking.
And the pay.
Around $1 is 60 cents per 1,000 characters, apparently. Again, supplementary income territory. Reviews mention flexibility, but also less work and low pay.
Okay. And Clickworker.
Similar to mTurk. Microtasks, some typing stuff maybe. Pay is per task. The article notes mostly negative reviews, again citing low work availability and low pay.
Okay, moving to a more familiar corporate name, Xerox. They do office tech, but also remote work, including data entry.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
For Xerox, the advice is basically check their careers website regularly for remote data entry openings.
And the word on working for them remotely.
Mixed reviews, according to the article. The trade-off seems to be maybe long hours and potentially low pay versus having a flexible schedule.
So flexibility might be there, but you'd need to look closely at the workload and pay for any specific role you find.
Exactly. Due diligence required.
Accutrin Global. Primarily transcription, but sometimes data entry. They hire in the US, UK, and Canada, which is interesting. But no openings right now.
That's what the article suggests for data entry specifically, but it does give a pay range. $16 to $25 an hour. That's definitely higher than many others we've seen.
It is. What about the reviews?
Positives mentioned interesting work and a supportive environment, but the downsides. Some felt the pay isn't really enough for the skills needed, and there's little room for advancement.
Okay. Data plus sounds a bit more upbeat in the article summary. Part-time, work-from-home data entry, generally good reviews.
Yeah, the feedback highlighted seems positive. Things like flexible schedules and a good flow of work.
But no mention of pay rates.
Unfortunately not in this summary, no. That's a missing piece.
Okay. Capital typing, they do data entry, transcription, customer support. Pay listed around $12 an hour for data entry. Reviews, let me guess. Mixed.
You guessed it. Mixed again. Some see it as a legit work-from-home chance, like the flexibility. But negatives include jobs assigned at odd hours, complaints about terrible audio quality, maybe more for transcription, but still, and again, very low pay for the time spent.
$12 an hour doesn't sound great if the tasks are difficult or time-consuming.
Agreed. Context matters.
Cass Information Systems. This one's different, a financial company. And they require on-site training first. before you go remote.
Yeah, that's a key point. Not fully remote from day one. Pays around $13 an hour. They do have an A+ BBB rating, which is a good sign.
Okay. And user feedback.
Highlights the part-time flexible schedule. Work is generally easy, but concerns about potential layoffs and, yes, low pay.
The on-site training could be a barrier for many looking for pure remote work.
Definitely something to factor in.
TDEC, the data entry company. Sounds like they have stricter requirements. Typing speed, 10 key skills, background check.
Yes, suggests they want people who already know their way around data entry. The pay mentioned is around $21 an hour.
That's one of the higher ones again, but the reviews.
Mixed bag, as usual. Some like the relaxing environment and flexibility. Others flag low pay compared to competitors for similar skills and issues with poor management.
So better pay potentially, but maybe other issues to deal with.
Who's that way?
Go transcript. Like AccuTran, mostly transcription, but occasional data entry. Pay range $15 to $22 an hour. Feedback sounds familiar.
Very familiar pattern for these transcription places. Flexibility is a plus,
Right.
but complaints about complicated quality control and the feeling that the pay is low for the effort involved.
Okay. Axion Data Services. Requirements, 50 WPM typing, 2-3 years experience, and a registration fee. That sounds like a potential red flag.
It is something to be cautious about, definitely. You'd want to know exactly what that fee covers and if it's refundable.
Absolutely. But the pay is listed at $16, $22 an hour, and the reviews sound mostly good.
Predominantly positive, yeah. People emphasized the flexibility, seemed happy with the availability of projects, and mentioned good pay. So despite the fee question mark, the feedback seems quite strong compared to others.
Interesting contrast. Worth investigating that fee carefully, then. Working Solutions, a call center company, but with data entry rules, too. Online application, assessment your fit. Flexible hours, 15 to 40 plus a week.
Pay range $16 to $20 an hour. Reviews generally positive again, especially on flexibility and good pay.
Any downsides mentioned?
Some comments about not enough work sometimes.
Yeah.
And the reminder that you're likely an independent contractor, so you need to handle your own taxes, probably quarterly.
Yes, the joys of self-employment taxes. Good point.
Important detail.
And we should circle back to flex jobs, just briefly. The article reiterates it's a solid place to find vetted, scam-free jobs, plus that extra support.
Exactly. A curated resource, not just a free-for-all listing site.
Yeah.
Worth remembering.
Okay, Vucko, a staffing firm. They hire for data entry clerks, database admins, freelance remote hybrid options, reviews. You guessed it.
Mixed. Some found the work easy but complained about low pay or terrible management. Others liked the nice recruiters but pointed out the contract-to-contract nature, meaning less job security.
So maybe okay for getting a foot in the door, but perhaps not a long-term career move.
That's what the article seems to suggest, yeah. Good for breaking into the field.
Bold business. Global solutions provider hires remote data entry. Might involve calls, so maybe good for people with sales or customer service background. Pay is $15 an hour. Reviews.
50-50 again. Some found them cooperative and professional.
Okay.
Others cited low salary and felt it was maybe only worthwhile if you have time, like as a side gig, not a main source of income.
Right. 15 an hour isn't that high if it takes up a lot of time.
Especially if calls are involved, which can be draining.
True. Lastly, Robert Half, another big staffing firm. Data entry roles, remote options available, standard tasks, input, maintenance, filing, admin. Pay reported around $39,000 a year. Reviews generally positive.
Yeah, mostly positive here.
Yeah.
People mentioned long and manageable assignments, suggesting some stability within contracts. Also praise for supportive managers. Just a note that one specific program ended, which is always a risk with contract work through agencies. But overall, seems like more positive experience reported there.
Okay, the article also quickly lists freelance sites. Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer.com, Guru.com. These are for temporary gigs, right?
Yeah, project-based work mostly. You can find data entry gigs there, definitely.
Good.
But competition is usually fierce. It takes time to build up a profile, get reviews, and command decent rates. And you absolutely have to be careful vetting clients to avoid scams or getting ripped off.
Right, buyer beware, or rather worker beware.
Exactly. Lots of due diligence needed on those platforms.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. The article talks about average pay and the skills needed. What's the big picture here?
Well, ZipRecruiter's average is apparently around $41,780 a year, or $20 an hour. The article calls this great pay for a remote job.
Great might be relative?
I agree. It's an average. Actual pay, as we've seen, varies wildly depending on experience, skills, the company, the industry.
Yeah.
As for skills, the essentials are good typing speed, ideally 70 WPM with accuracy, basic computer skills, Word, Excel, maybe databases, good written communication, and, critically, focus and concentration for repetitive tasks.
Absolutely key. Now, the really crucial part, avoiding scams. What are the main tips the article gives? This is vital info.
Super important. Okay, first, check the company website's authenticity. Does it look professional? Is there contact info? Look them up on the BBB, Glassdoor. See what others say. No online presence or tons of bad reviews. Big warning sign.
Right.
Second, a real company usually has a proper application process. Resume, maybe a skills test, interviews. If it seems too easy, be suspicious.
Yeah.
Third, and this is a huge one, never pay upfront. Legitimate employers don't charge you for training software or job lists. That's a classic scam
That
tactic.
is your red flag right there.
Absolutely. And finally, just use common sense. If a job promises incredibly high pay for very little work, doing basic data entry, it's almost certainly a scam. Too good to be true usually is.
Sound advice. The article also suggests some personal checks before even applying, right? Things to consider about yourself and your setup.
Yeah, good points. First, honestly, check your typing speed and accuracy. It's fundamental. Realize that basic typing jobs often pay less than, say, transcription or roles needing specific knowledge. Don't expect every data entry job to replace a full-time income. Many are part-time or gig-based.
Right. Manage expectations.
Exactly. And practically, make sure you have a quiet place to work, good internet, a decent laptop, and the self-discipline for remote work. Time management is key.
Makes sense. Lastly, the article gives a little nudge towards transcription as potentially higher paying for good typists. It mentions Transcribe Anywhere as a resource.
Yeah, it's a logical next step to consider. If you find you're a fast, accurate typist and want potentially better pay than basic data entry, transcription could be worth exploring. It uses that core skill, but adds the listening comprehension part. Resources like that site can help you learn more, often with free intro stuff.
Good suggestion. So wrapping this up, it seems the work-from-home data entry world is, well, it's diverse. Everything from super entry-level stuff with maybe low pay to jobs needing real experience and offering better money.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We've gone through microtask surveys, dedicated companies, staffing firms, the whole range. The main takeaway has to be, legit jobs are out there, yes, but you absolutely have to do your homework. Be realistic about the pay and keep your eyes peeled for those scam warning signs we talked about. Vigilance is key.
Definitely. And with that, maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Remote work is booming, right? So how might the skills needed for data-focused jobs change in the future? Will basic typing be enough? Or will things like data analysis, maybe some light coding or specific software skills become more important?
Interesting question.
And what could you start doing now, maybe learning a new skill to make yourself a stronger candidate in that evolving remote work landscape? Something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.